See, this to me is manhood. Everybody wants to talk about toxic masculinity, but I'm going to highlight the fact that this right here, this is real manhood. Ryan Clark's a dude. Like, he's a dude's dude, right? Pro football player, etc. But when he said, I could have done something differently, and I'm man enough to admit that, that's an example of masculinity. That's an example of manhood. Manhood is admitting when you're wrong, right? And I want to throw another example because his one of his co-stars, Channing Crowder, had a very similar thing where Channing, let me highlight it here. Channing, kind of got into a little scenario on a platform where he was talking about Bill Belichick and his girlfriend or what, or the lady that he's dating. And he came back and said, you know what? I shouldn't have said that. Again, this is an example of manhood, like being able to admit when you're wrong. And to me, examples of punks are individuals who will never admit when they're wrong. They just are always right. They're never wrong. They never say anything out of pocket. Those that are unwilling to admit when they're wrong are not men that you should follow. Those that are unwilling to admit when they've said things that are out of pocket, that's an example of toxic masculinity. That's what gives us dudes a bad name, when we're unwilling to admit when we screw up. Because now people take that example and they put it across the board and they assume that men don't admit when they're wrong. But I'm going to tell you right now, Channing Crowder and Ryan Clark did an amazing job of admitting that, they could have done things differently. And this is something that we need to copy and paste in the playbook of being men. Admit when you're wrong. When you're in reflection, when you screw up, say, listen, I could have done things differently, right? But do not follow suit with others who are in high leadership capacities who refuse to admit when they do something wrong. Okay? So this is just really something that I really wanted to dive in. When you start thinking about the formulation of your mindset and how you operate, yes, you should be inside out, meaning you should formulate your values from the things that you hold true to yourself, your faith, your experiences, relationships, etc. But we also take clues and cues from other people. Just be mindful of those that you are allowing to set the example for how you operate, because some are operating at a very high level and doing so well, others not so much. And an example of doing so well are Ryan Clark and Channing Crowder with regard to them stepping up as men and saying they could have done stuff differently. So shout out to them, shout out to the Pivot Podcast, and shout out to all dudes out there who are living that life on a high level, being men. But being a man and being masculine does not mean that you just run over everybody and never admit when you're wrong. Actually, it's the other side to that coin. When you're a man, when you're like really secure in who you are, you have no problem admitting when you've done stuff wrong or when you could have done things better. So this is a shout out to them, man. I hope y'all enjoyed this. Make sure y'all pay attention to the Pivot Podcast. They drop some really dope stuff on there. But otherwise, y'all be blessed, full, and wise, and I'll holler at you. Peace.